right, hello everyone, and welcome to the 5th episode of our Mud Queens Mudcast, which is just a clever play on the word podcast with a bit of mud in it. I'm Amy, and joining me is Jojo.
Hello.
Hello. And today we're going to talk about winter racing. We're going to talk about all the things that you could potentially wear in winter races. We're going to talk a little bit about how they feel, what we're going to be doing in the next couple of months, and also just, I guess, giving a few pointers as to the sort of techniques that you might employ in winter racing just to get through it alive and all that, and maybe even have fun or something. How you doing, Jojo?
I'm alright. I'm injured, so yeah, it's all good.
Tell me about it.
It's all good. I'm off the back of Mac Tough, which was my it was my kind of equipment testing, my clothing testing for Tough Guy.
That's a very important thing to do.
Yeah.
Very, very wise and clever. How was your kit?
It was good. I turned up in Subsports cold tights.
Mm-hmm.
Over the top of that, I wore a neoprene shorty that could zip at the front, which was a godsend.
Yeah, we'll definitely talk about the zippage later.
Yeah, and merino wool underneath, and I had the bleg mitts, the neoprene mitts,
Ooh.
which are really good, and my Mud Queen hat. But to be fair, I didn't face a lot of water. So
okay.
probably wasn't as helpful and prepared as what you need to be for Tough Guy. How about you, though? How are you after being kicked by a cow?
I am fine. I have had a bit of a rubbish one. I've had quite a significant flare-up from my CFS, which is sort of rubbish. So I've been very, very tired and barely getting through the days at the moment. So there's been a lot of sleeping. So training has taken a backseat, as you might imagine, but this week I had just started to claw my way back into some sort of social scene, as well as training. I had to cancel, unfortunately, going to Nuclear at the weekend, which I would have really liked to do, but I was just too sick. And then I dragged myself to the OTC, the Outdoor Training Centre, on Sunday for a couple of hours, which was very good for me to do. But yeah, I am weak like a baby, and I went climbing last night. That was about it. And then I was feeling pretty positive about the idea of maybe going for a run tomorrow morning, and then a cow kicked me right on the knee this morning. So yeah, she has well and truly peed on my bonfire today, and now I have a big fat fluidy knee. But I'm sure it'll be fine. It'll be fine. Everything's always fine. It's so fine, isn't it?
Ignorance is bliss. Just pretend it's not there.
No, so I'm gonna write it for a bit and then see if I can at least attempt a little bit of a walk, if nothing else, this weekend.
Well done.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting, though, isn't it? Tough Guy is on everybody's mind at the moment.
It really is. I mean, it has been certainly on the Mud Queen radar for quite a long time, and everybody has been preemptively stressing about kit for probably about the last 6 to 8 weeks. But it's been a difficult one to call. Okay, maybe I've just ostriched the whole thing, but it's been a bit of a difficult one to call up until now, really, because we've had an unseasonably warm winter, no matter what anyone says. And January now is only really starting to get quite bitter. So I think now is a decent time to talk about what to wear. There've been a few articles knocking around in various blogs and online magazines about good winter kit. There's been a lot of chat in the Mud Queen group, and I just want to say I think people are stressing unnecessarily, and just take a step back and calm down. So we're going to talk about what works for some people, what to think about, and just go from there. But this is without the noise. Just what are your must-haves for a winter race?
Cool. I like the sound of that. Must-haves for winter racing. Okay, go.
You want me to go first? Okay, let's talk socks. Ordinarily, if you're just doing a normal trail run, I probably wouldn't recommend running in neoprene because it sort of alters how much bulk you've got in your shoe. It gets pretty hot and sweaty, and your feet end up looking like sad prunes afterwards. However, Tough Guy has a lot of water, and despite the fact that it is pretty much a grueling 9 mile cross country run for the first bit, you're going to be really grateful for some nice toasty neoprene socks. They don't need to be thick. They don't need to be expensive. I got mine from Decathlon, but I tell you what, I would not touch a Winter Nuts course or Tough Guy without them. Neoprene socks, absolute go. Just make sure you trial them before you go, because you might need to take the insoles out of your shoes. For example, those Ortholite insoles in most of the Salomons, they can come out pretty easily, and the shoe's still pretty sturdy without them. So do check your shoes, check your lacing, because they will make your feet a couple of millimeters fatter.
I have to say, I agree with that. I absolutely love my neoprene socks, and they're like the TWR or something, and I literally got them from Amazon for like £3. It was after, I think it was Jennifer Hogwood told me about them last year. Wear them for every JD team race. Love them.
Yeah, they're absolutely fantastic. I would try and get a pair that don't have too many sort of seams going over where your toes are, because they can get a bit sore. And I would definitely wear socks underneath them as well. I don't know whether you do, but I wear really thin, they're Nike anti-blister socks underneath. Really thin. Yeah. It just stops your toes getting too sweaty, I think, underneath.
Sweaty toes. Everybody loves some sweaty toes.
Oh, wow, this is why I'm not married.
But I think definitely neoprene socks if you're someone who does suffer with cold feet, because the last thing you want to do is not be able to feel your feet, and that can get really painful, and that will ruin your race.
Yeah, it gets really tiresome, especially, for example, at Nuts when you're crawling out of Hell River onto cargo nets, and if you don't know where your feet are in space because they're just sad blocks of ice attached to your legs, you know, it really comes in helpful just for basic proprioception. I definitely left my feet in a few cargo nets, and my body has carried on without them, and it's not to be recommended, especially if you want to maintain any sort of dignity. So neoprene socks, cheap, Decathlon, Amazon, whatever, just crack on, but do trial them this week if you haven't already.
Indeed.
We may as well move up the body. Let's talk about leggings, or what to wear on your legs.
Indeed. Now, I think with legs, I think some people are really really different. This is where you start to find that everybody's different. Socks and what have you, maybe not so much. But I remember watching John Alban, someone said, "Oh, what do you do?" And he said, "I actually wear shorts because then I've got nothing other than my skin to dry, and so nothing's clinging on." But if you're not going to wear shorts, I am a fan of the sub-sports cold compression tights.
Cold. Yeah, okay. So Subsports Cold are probably my favourite cold gear stuff. They do have their faults. For example, sometimes they come up a little bit short and they do fall down a little bit. But I find that if you slam a pair of shorts over the top of them, or if you're teaming a shorty wetsuit with them, more on that later, they can stay up perfectly well. They are a bit delicate. I have known them to rip on seams, and I've ripped mine at the weekend, but they're still absolutely usable. And they do run small. So if you're last minute ordering, go a size up. Oh my God, they are tight. You'll be singing like a choir boy if you end up with your normal size. So definitely go size up. Other brands that I think are pretty good for cold.
Do you know what? When I first started doing races, Spartan Beast and stuff like that, I wore Under Armour cold gear.
Yeah, cold gear. So cold gear and heat gear are Under Armour's like temperature dependent stuff. So cold gear is for when it is cold. It doesn't keep you cold, it's for when it's cold. And once you've established that, you're all good. They are brilliant. They're just obviously a little bit pricier. They're not subject to the same sort of discounts that we can get on Subsports. But yeah, they're amazing, and I do find that Under Armour stay up and they're very durable. So I do love a bit of them.
Indeed. I mean, I've still got a pair that I've had from like 2012.
Oh yeah, oh no, they're brilliant. I really love Under Armour stuff. I just can't bloody afford it. As far as shorts are concerned, I don't wear them for cold stuff because I get horrible corned beef legs and my legs get all swollen and gross. But definitely just have a think about what if your legs are swelling up a little bit because it's cold. You want them to sort of cover any potential thigh chafage. So I would go for longer, not over the knee or anything. It's not Victorian England, but go for slightly longer shorts where your thighs won't be applauding you. On every move that you make. I don't know what you think about that.
Oh yeah, like that. Oh yeah, no. Get some. Yeah, I can't. Just.
She literally just can't with thigh chafage.
I can't because it hurts. So, and I mean, obviously, if that's even going to be a concern, get some Vaseline or get some of the. What's that stuff called that triathletes use?
Body Glide.
Body Glide. Get some Vaseline or Body Glide, just in case, if you know you're going to get a bit of chafage.
I've never used that. Maybe I should. I definitely.
Yeah, they use it for their wetsuits. They swear by it.
Well, speaking of, you could actually wear a wetsuit for Tough Guy. I'm probably going to wear a wetsuit for Tough Guy because I know I'm not going to be running at full pelt. And I know that I'm going to be out on the course for a long time. And I also know that that little farm up there, it has its own microclimate. It is so cold. And the wind really whips through it. And I find the neoprene helps with that. So if you have a wetsuit, don't feel like a prat for wanting to wear it for a run. But please, God, run in it before you run in it at Tough Guy.
To be fair, I have to say, I went and did MacTough. I'd never run in my wetsuit. I literally bought it, stayed in the cupboard, and then it got pulled out Sunday morning before the race. And I was like, oh crap, am I putting it over the top of my stuff or am I putting it under everything? And I thought, do you know what, I'm just putting it over. I don't care. But the joys of the shorty wetsuit that I had was it was front zipping, so when you do overheat, it's easy enough to unzip that bugger and get some air in. But I know that a lot of people have sourced shorties that are the generic back zip because that's what you find, and that's what's available. But I would say don't be scared to like turn that bugger around.
No, fair enough. I mean, you can run with weird butt panels over your front, but that's fine. With the wetsuits, the reason I would say run in them before, or at least, have a think about your wetsuit strategy is, again, with the thighs, remember that they're going to be a few mils thicker, so if they didn't rub before, they might well now. I'm going to put shorts over the top of my wetsuit because I did a rope traverse in it the other week at Nuts, and it's a little bit harder to do. There's a little bit more friction there, so helps things glide along a little bit more easily. And the front zip is a really good thing, especially with Tough Guy. You are running, as I say, probably about 9 miles before you actually hit anything that really requires a wetsuit. So having that room for your chest to actually expand and help you do that breathing thing that I've heard is quite useful, definitely go for that. Mine is actually a back zip, but it's a triathlon wetsuit, so it's kind of okay to run in. And because no one really wants to go on surfing holidays right now, there are quite a few wetsuits on Wetsuit Outlet, Surf Dome, and various other wetsuit selling places online, which you can still probably get in time for Tough Guy, if not for Nuts. Anyway, mine's a Speedo wetsuit. Also, crucially, it doesn't have sleeves, my wetsuit, so I've got full range of movement in my arms. It doesn't impede me in obstacles, and it means that under your arms don't chafe against the slightly thicker wetsuit material as you're going. What you said about stuff going under or over, I would say that's probably personal preference. They're designed to be close to your skin, but I wear a merino base layer on my top half under my wetsuit.
Exactly what I did. wore a merino base layer underneath, and I was good. But then I didn't get the top half of me wet, so.
Oh, well, yeah. No, I mean, the thing is, the wetsuit is designed not to keep you dry. It is designed to have that small layer of water around you that you've already heated up with your body heat, and that should maintain your body temperature to a degree.
And don't be afraid to pee in it, because triathletes do it all the time because it warms them up.
And
Just
it
saying.
feels amazing.
Just saying. Peeing in a wetsuit.
Yeah. Just be aware that if you're peeing into your wetsuit and you've got it connected to your socks, you'll be peeing into your own shoes. So just have a think about whether peeing might warm your toes up.
There you
might
go.
be
You
quite
see,
nice.
just
Well, I speak from experience. If you run past anyone at Tough Guy that's got like a sort of half smile on their face and a dreamy, faraway expression, they pee in.
Yeah, and it's warm.
Okay, so moving up, I just talked about base layers, as did Jojo. What are your faves, mate?
It's really difficult because I'm a really cold person.
Me too.
And like literally my lips go blue in the house. So, but the annoying thing is that as soon as I start running, I get quite hot.
Oh.
And that's really annoying but then obviously when I stop, bam, my temperature just drops straight away. So I've got a couple of different things that I've worn over the years. Under Armour cold gear, because actually sometimes you'll find great deals in TK Maxx. That's where I've always bought mine. And now I have the Subsports cold gear.
Yeah, it's lush. The Subsport stuff is really nice. Again, still runs small on the top half, so
Definitely.
Give yourself a bit of room. Do not feel bad about ordering an extra large, because I definitely have an extra large top.
Yeah.
And when you're cold and wet, peeling off a medium is just utterly horrific. It's like removing your own skin.
You can't do it. You need help.
Yeah, I've definitely been assisted in that region before.
Dude, this found me tough. Right, Mac Tough. Okay, I'm not even like I'm standing up now because this is important. It's not important,
Cheers.
but everybody saw my boobs, and I'm a person that does not get naked. But I was like that cold and needed that much help getting shit off. That was it. I was like, yep, boobs are out. Sorry, I'm in my pants.
Actually, last Tough Guy, I put a little Facebook status up and I was like, is anyone available to take my clothes off for me afterwards? And I got a couple of like legit helpers to come and dress me. Christy definitely had to sort me out because I got my towel stuck in my underwear and I couldn't, like, I had this massive beach towel thing and I'm like trying to wrench it out from under myself. As you can imagine, it wasn't working. Yeah, so that was pretty mortifying. But yeah, you kind of have to say goodbye to your dignity and just lay it all on the line just to get undressed properly after one of these races. Yeah, let's keep on with base layers. Other favourites. So we've got Subsports. I like my Innovate Merino. It's expensive and it doesn't wear that well, to be honest, but it still works. It's full of holes, but I love it. And you can get some brilliant merino at, is it Aldi?
Yeah, they are. See, they seem to be like killing it with activewear.
Yep, they are doing very, very well. It's very affordable as well.
Yeah.
And Sub also do merino. I think I have some of their stuff kicking around. My favourite base layer, however, is my Nike Hyperwarm, which I've had for donkey's years and smells oddly like the Nuts course no matter how many times I wash it. But I have a couple of those and they're amazing.
Yeah.
They really they tend to stay down, they don't roll up willy-nilly.
Isn't that annoying?
Yes.
When you run and you're wearing something really tight and it starts rolling over your fat and you're just like, this is awkward. I don't want to be running while having to pull my shit down all the time.
No, I mean, God, sometimes I feel to invent some sort of brace system that would clip my top to my trousers if it didn't look completely ridiculous. But I feel like little breeze, like on the small of my back, and I'm like, a piece of my skin is exposed. I can't possibly run anymore.
But
Yeah.
this is the thing, and then for me, if I leave it too long, all of a sudden it creeps up, and then it's literally under my boobs.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's really not on, because it's supposed to be holding me in too.
No. Yeah, I know. They're there for like preventative badly stuffed sausage purposes, and then there they go, just riding on up. Not on.
Letting the
Not
fat hang out, yeah. No.
on. Yay! So that's where I am with base layers. So what I'll probably do for Tough Guy is I will have merino base layer. I'm gonna be banging my wetsuit on. And then over the top, I'll probably have another base layer, and then my magical tea, obviously. And then what I will probably do, I'm not sure about this yet, but I know it's very windy there at times. I might put a windproof jacket in my bra. Just a really small, like pack-a-mac type thing. Might even put it in a little Ziploc baggie and just stuff it in my wetsuit. I mean, God, the shape of me doesn't really matter at all by this point. And keep that for the end, because there's a bit after the killing fields, when you've done all of the water obstacles, you come back out and there's a little bit more, maybe 15 minutes or so, of being out of the water when you're very, very wet and cold. So popping that on might save your skin, actually.
I think a windbreaker would be really good. Anybody that's going to go and do Mac Tough next year, wear a windbreaker, because there's open parts, and it is so good to be wearing that. It really does help your temperature. So that is definitely like something that people should think about. But what about the head? I'm thinking like full on neoprene balaclava.
Oh wow, really? Are you? Okay. I personally am not a balaclava fan, just because I feel a bit restricted. What I have done in the past with Tough Guy and Winter Nuts and stuff like that is I've had like probably about 3 buffs. I've had one on my head, one around my neck, and one on my wrist. And I've moved them around accordingly, like if I felt too hot or whatever. And then down my top, our capacious bras, I've had a neoprene hat. I've seen people with swimming hats, and various like caps and things like that, or woolly hat. I don't see the point in a woolly hat.
Leave that till you're actually finished.
You may as well have a wet cat on your head for all the use that's going to be. And with the swimming hats, I feel they would be quite restrictive. Not that you do a lot of head movement, but I think that they would feel a bit tight. I would probably get a headache. Neoprene hat, invaluable. Doesn't matter where it's from, just make sure it fits nice and snugly to your head. Some of them even come with a little tag that you can tie them onto your wetsuit if they happen to come off, if you go in quickly. Just put it on for the water sections. If you want to take it off in between, wring it out, then that's fine, but it really protects you from that horrible brain freeze when you do go full submersion, for example, at the lollipop heads.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, definitely go with a neoprene hat. And, buffs are absolutely invaluable. I've got a million of them. Some of them are actually merino as well, which is quite nice, but they get soggy and they get gross, so it's good to have some on rotation.
Yeah, such a good idea. And probably last but not least, gloves, man. Like, I trialled out the Bled mitts. I've always wanted a pair ever since I read about them a couple of years ago. Mm-hmm. You can only get them in Australia, which is really annoying, but is what it is. But they're so good, because although they're a mitt, and you can get neoprene mitts in this country, but the difference with this one is that they don't have a massive hole in the palm.
Okay.
It's actually covered up, but the whole point is that you literally pull back the mitt, have your hand free, and then it's easy to pull it back on again. Whereas with normal neoprene gloves, how annoying is it when they're wet to try and put them back on again?
Yeah, it is.
And they worked beautifully at JD and at MacTuff.
Oh, wow. I didn't even know about them. I just use neoprene gloves. I've got a few pairs, but I did find that there was some perhaps cheaper pairs or different brands, like my Gull ones. they had a seam that ran very, very deep around in between my fingers, and that started to sort of grate on me after a while, especially if I was using them on obstacles. The best ones I've found have been the O'Neill FLX wetsuit gloves. Mine are about 3 years old now, and they are looking pretty sad. They've got some holes in, but they're still going. I think they'll have their final hurrah at Tough Guy. But they allow you to maintain quite a lot of dexterity on obstacles. I always still use them on ropes because the ropes there are like really abrasive. And realistically speaking, there aren't that many technical obstacles. So, well, there aren't any technical obstacles, to be honest. So as long as they can hold on to like cargo netting, rope, and wood, which they can, you'll be laughing. But you probably won't want them on for the vast majority of the first part of the race, until you start jumping into ditches and stuff like that, and you don't want to get your hands, muddy, really. So yeah, the only problem is that they're difficult to get on and off, but I live with that. I've got nowhere else to be. I may as well just run along and try and mess about with my gloves while I'm running.
Oh man, I can't wait to be able to shove my hand in your face and go, look, on, off, on, off.
Can't wait to shove my finger in your eye. Oh, well, yeah, so neoprene gloves, I would say, are an absolute must. I wouldn't bother with any other kind. Not cycling gloves, not toughest gloves or anything like that. They won't afford you any protection, really. I know Tough Guy do their own gloves. I can't speak for their efficacy. I know they're billed as sort of one use, so I should imagine that tells you all you need to know. But yeah, I would go with neoprene if you can. So I think that completes the outfit, really. We haven't talked about shoes, but I think most of you listening now will be, fully conversant on the different types of shoes and know what works for you. You just need trail shoes. It's muddy, it's sticky, it's claggy, and you go in the water.
I don't like that word.
Which one?
Claggy.
Claggy, but it's so onomatopoeic. You know exactly what it means when you say claggy.
No, I know, but I don't like it.
Well, I said it, so there.
Nice.
Right, so from top to toe, neoprene hat, some buffs, a base layer or two, a windbreaker jacket that you can just stuff in your bra, like a really small pack one. Then a wetsuit, if you want to or not. You can go with a long one, you can go with a shorty. Potentially a pair of shorts over your leggings, if you are that way inclined. Running leggings, definitely something that helps you with the cold. And then all the way down to neoprene socks. I think that will have you covered.
Yeah. You
can always take stuff off. It's just getting stuff during the race is just a little bit difficult. So, just think about how fast you are. Think about how you felt in the past and how hard you work when you run. And don't worry too much about what everybody else is wearing. I mean, it can really psych you out to know that someone has an extra base layer that you don't. Don't worry about them. Wear what works for you. I don't give a shit that I look like the Michelin Man when I run because I'm so warm. I'm so toasty. So toasty. I don't care what you're wearing.
I love that. And then, don't care about the guy that is, it's his first ever time doing OCR and he's wearing a mankini. Yay.
Oh, no, just step over him very gently. Find him in a ditch. So let's talk about actually during these races. I'm going to focus probably on Tough Guy, I guess. It's a bit of a different animal to say Winter Nuts, but we will touch on both.
They're both really important races coming up, aren't they? So, yeah.
Yeah, they're big. So as I've said about 4 times, Tough Guy is essentially the world's most grueling cross-country run, punctuated at the end by the killing fields, which is a mixture of quite tall timber-based obstacles and a lot of water. There is full submersion, there is swimming, and there are several in and outs of, like bodies of water. There's some crawling through water, that sort of business. You will, if you are in the water sections, have to go all the way in. So I think that's people's biggest fear with Tough Guy, don't you?
Yeah, I think the water and the cold water is the biggest thing. It's my fear. Like, I'm like, oh my God, how am I going to cope with that? I literally am. I'm surprised I haven't had a nightmare.
Yeah, there's still time. There's still a few more sleeps. So you were having an interesting conversation with Becky Neal, weren't you,
I
about this?
was. So basically, this lady is a big old nerd. She's got a PhD in primarily endurance and heat. So we're try to get her on at a later date when England has their 2-day heat wave. And with the cold water, she offered some really good advice, which was, as you approach water, the best thing to do is go in slowly, because what you don't want to do is jump in, especially if you're not used to cold water, jumping in and obviously full submersion, and then you get the gas reflex. It's not fun. So go in slowly so your body is aware of what's happening and you can gasp well above the water.
Yeah,
Well above the water. Because we
yeah.
don't want that happening, especially as there are horror stories of like Tough Mudder and some guy dying, but that's not going to happen because no one's going to do it.
No, I mean the sometimes for me personally, I do think that if you're doing a jump from height into water, you've obviously got no choice.
Yeah.
You just have to really, really train your brain here. You have to think, okay, this is going to be cold. I am going to want to gasp. I am going to want to hyperventilate, and you just have to stay calm. It is cold. It is very cold. But I find that counting helps, whether it's out loud or not. When you're in the water, just count your way through it very calmly, very steadily. Just think of yourself as a bit of a metronome, and that'll give you some rhythm to get through that section, either if it's either by swimming through it, or if there's a rope pull, or if you're tall enough to wade. Just count yourself through it, to just give you something else to focus on. Dithering at the top of obstacles is just not an option here. The longer you spend up in the cold doing that, the less likely I feel you are to actually go through with it. And I don't want anybody to leave hugely disappointed. If you have no intention of doing the water, that's your own business. That's absolutely fine. I have no issue with that. But if you go there with the intent of like completing the whole course as it is, intended, I would definitely just crack on. Just please don't dither and get yourself cold and worked up, because you'll be even worse once you get in the water. Same goes for the lollipop heads. When you approach them, the longer you spend, dithering about them, the lower your core body temperature is going to be when you come out the other end. If you can get through all of them without popping your head up in between, just do it. Just go under. It makes it much less painful.
I think I think that is a really massive thing that people need to know, is just to get on with it. But then that's the same for queues and hanging around for your mates, because how many people hang around for their mates and get cold because of it? And I think that's a really dangerous thing to do. I know that you don't want to leave people behind,
No.
but if they're with someone that is at the same pace, go on ahead, because at the end of the day, your safety is for you the most important thing.
Well, you're no use to anybody if you're putting yourself in a dangerous position. I think since a lot of us Mud Queens are going there together, we're starting together, we do need to have a bit of a strategy meeting about this, really. Like, if you've got your little knots of friends that you're going to be doing the race with, you need to have a very serious, very frank talk about your pace. If there are people that are going to be held back, it's really important that they don't martyr themselves for the cause. I'm not trying to overblow this and make it into some sort of terrifying military operation, because it's not. But you will get cold if you aren't pushing yourself through this race, or if you aren't layered up appropriately. So if you are hanging back, I think it sucks to be the person that's holding a group back, because my God, I've done it so many times. But realistically, there is always someone there.
Yeah.
You are never by yourself at Tough Guy or any other OCR race, to be honest. There's always someone that's going to be around your pace. And for the times that there aren't races around you, the Ghost Squad will be there. They really will. They are very supportive, and they will get you through. But it's important that you guys, as groups, as running groups, have a chat about potentially having a front runner pack, a medium speed, and a slower one. There's no shame in any of it. You're going to get through it. It shouldn't be at the expense of someone else's experience or a potential DNF where you didn't need to have one.
Yeah, exactly. But then the same again goes for queues, because it doesn't matter what race you are, whether you are the well-oiled machine of Tough Mudder to, your local obstacle race, inevitably there is going to be a queue somewhere. And with that many people attending this race, over 5,000 people from what I understand,
wow,
the last thing you want to do is be the 100th person in a queue waiting for an obstacle, especially if you get cold quick. Move on. It's regardless look, at the end of the day, some people are going to go, oh, they're just, they can't be bothered to do the obstacle. But at the end of the day, either huddle like a penguin huddle, get yourself a penguin huddle going, or move on if you get cold, because at the end of the day, that obstacle is not worth you DNFing.
No, it's really not. I mean, obviously, I'm sure that they are going to work hard to ensure a slightly more fluid movement through the bigger obstacles, but if on the day you're sitting there waiting, honestly, nothing there is sort of exciting enough for you to think, oh my god, I didn't do that one. It's, you'll get the same experience, don't worry. Just don't get cold. It's much better feeling to come across the finish line and get your medal and feel pleased that you've conquered a beast without, it's much better than standing around in the cold and eventually not finishing.
And ending up in the paramedic tent. Yay!
Massively oversubscribed tent.
Yeah.
So, finishing. Finishing is where we want you all to be. And to be honest, I don't really see a great reason why majority won't finish. I mean, injuries aside, and that would be bad luck, but you guys are more than capable of doing this. I've seen your work for it posts. You are running and doing all sorts of movement that isn't just horizontal running. I'm so impressed and overawed by just how active everyone is right now. So fitness-wise, there is nothing you can't do in this race.
And if it's not fitness, most of you are stubborn as hell.
Oh gosh, yes. Mules, the lot of you. Very attractive and elegant mules.
Well done for putting that in there.
Yeah.
Very pleased with stuff. Mm-hmm.
So finishing, it's full of glory. But the next thing you need to do is take your clothes off.
It's getting hot. No, it's not getting hot in here at all.
It won't be.
It's very cold.
You might be high on life and your own personal achievement, but I would grab the cocoa, which, by the way, is scalding. So don't drink that right away. Skitter off to the barns. They're actually really warm with everyone's body heat and nervousness. And jump on over to the showers. They are quite warm, actually, in those barns, and it gets very cozy and communal. Honestly, nobody is looking at you. You are the least interesting thing in that barn. So take your clothes off straight away. If you can't do it, get a friend to do it, because your worst enemy once you have finished a race is your horrible, cold, wet, clammy clothes.
Mm-hmm.
Off. Get yourself in the shower. Even if you have to get in the shower with your clothes on and strip off there, do it, because the best thing for you is to get warm and dry.
And don't forget to take the bloody hat off, because if you're wearing wool and it is wet, get it off as soon as possible and exchange it for a dry one.
Yeah, absolutely. It's imperative. It's nice to want to say hi to everybody, family and friends or whatever, but if they loved you at all, they would make you take your clothes off.
Exactly, and I will be there to help anybody in need.
Might well take you up on that.
Very welcome.
Thanks, pal. Yeah, so there'll be huge barns. Everybody can pretty much put their stuff together. It's a bit of a free-for-all. Note, don't bother taking your valuables up there. You don't need them. A little secret stash of cash with a friend maybe, but realistically speaking, there's no need for you to have loads of valuables there, and it's all completely open. So just so you know. Crack on, get your clothes off, and then you can warm up with your cocoa, which should have cooled to ambient temperature by then.
If you haven't, with your shaking, managed to shake it all out anyway. It's like,
Why they hand people these scalding hot drinks? It's like molten bloody lava, and people are shaking so much they're spilling it all over their hands.
But they can't feel it because they're that cold.
No, they're bugging. It sort of would be funny if it wasn't so dangerous and burny. But yeah. Stop laughing at me. Jojo's hurt, so she's pacing up and down her room instead of sitting down at the table like a normal person. It's very disconcerting.
It hurts my butt.
I feel like I'm in a job interview. Okay, so I think we've covered most of the stuff with Tough Guy. The only thing I want to add, re-kit/technique for nuts, not that I am an expert by any stretch, is that you just must have spare kit.
Yes.
Because every lap that you come back in from nuts is going to be wet and cold at that point. And nothing demoralises you more than starting a lap of nuts already wet and cold. So I would probably take extra couple of base layers so you can whip off the top 2 layers of what you're wearing and bang on some nice warm stuff. Warm buffs, like extra buffs, dry buffs is absolutely the way forward for that as well.
I think transition though as well is not to spend too much time in transition, especially again if you're like me and your temperature drops really quickly when you stop. The worst thing you can do is hang around in that place. Just bang out, like get the food on board, hydration, whatever, change, get out there again.
Yeah, so I would definitely recommend a warm flask of whatever you want. Warm electrolytes, warm Lucozade for those peculiar individuals, warm Ribena, coffee, tea, whatever. It doesn't really matter at that stage. Just something warm, like tepid for you. Electrolyte drinks are always a good one, but I tend to feel quite sick at nuts, and the last thing I want to down is like a really sugary drink, but it has to be done. Which is why I prefer shot blocks to gels, because they're a bit easier on the stomach. Things like flapjacks, bananas, really sort of hearty, warm food. It doesn't really matter, to be honest. It's something that you want to eat that fuels you. It is okay, to be honest. I mean, no one's going to be really assessing your nutrition when you're in that sort of state. And as for Tough Guy as well, stick a flapjack in your bra, stick some jelly babies in your bra, or whatever.
There's going to be lots of volunteers out there, and from what I can gather about the Mug Queen volunteers, they are going fully loaded with those jelly babies.
Yeah, they're going to be shoving confectionery down your throat. It's going to be marvellous. And it's going to be that really awkward thing where, you get like Haribo that's been out in the cold too long. It's really hard.
Yeah.
And you're there chomping away. It's really, really bad. Yeah, we don't want that. Nice soft things, please. Marshmallows, in fact.
Really?
That was amazing. Yeah, marshmallows, man.
Really?
I'm going to be on the lookout for some marshmallows. Everyone's going to be like, you're so ungrateful, you can't have my Haribo.
God, you're such a cow. Oh, no, wait, you got kicked by one.
Oh, yeah, I know, I've taken my penance. Right, I think we're good. Are we good?
Indeed, although I just want to say, though, that anybody that wants to take their winter racing kind of coldness to the next level, there is a guy that is absolutely off his rocker called Wim Hof.
Oh, yeah.
And I know that Margaret Schlochter is currently going through one of his courses, and so she's blogging about it, so check that out on dirtinyourskirt.com. But it's wimhofmethod.com, and it's all about breathing techniques and getting in the shower and doing all this kind of stuff to essentially be able to like run up mountains with a t-shirt or with no t-shirt on. So I mean, if you are interested in going that much more mental with it, then check it out.
Yeah, I think there's a book that's just come out. I'm reading. It's by Scott Carney, who some of you may have seen at Tough Guy before. He's been writing about sort of the limits of human endurance and how we are unlocking our evolutionary potential by competing in these sort of things. And he's done a lot of work with Wim Hof. He's a pretty incredible guy. He's very interesting. His book, What Doesn't Kill Us, is out now, and that's an interesting read. I don't think these sort of methods are to be taken lightly, and realistically, I'm the first person to poo-poo stuff like this, but I think that it has when it comes to races like this, because a lot of it is mind over matter. gonna be fine. Just relax. Don't worry about what everyone else is wearing. Just get yourself through it. You will be supported every step of the way.
Yeah, you will. There'll be loads of people around, no matter what happens, Mud Queen or non-Mud Queen. Someone will be there. It's gonna be awesome, man. It's gonna be awesome.
Yeah, so all that remains to say is good luck. I will see you there.
Indeed.
And,
I'll see you there, crying.
oh dear.
It's gonna be emotional, man. There's like potentially over 200 Mud Queens on start line.
Do you know what though? Honestly, one of the best I've been on a fair few start lines. The best start line I've ever encountered was that sort of half a mile charge at the beginning of Tough Guy. It is incredible. It is atmospheric. It is, and I don't wish to use the term lightly, it is absolutely legendary, that start line. It really is an incredible thing to be a part of. So I'm really pleased that I'm going to be sharing it with you girls. And yeah, see you there. Good luck. Let's have some fun.
Yeah, man. Stay hydrated. Don't forget hydration. Stay hydrated. Keep warm and all that, and enjoy it because that's why you're there.
Just because it's cold doesn't mean that you have to forego having a drink. Definitely drink.
And by that we mean water, not alcohol, because that comes later.
Yeah, it's still dry January.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. God, fun sponge.
Anyway, but yeah. Anyway, right. We have droned on for a long time.
Yeah, we have. All right then. Awesome. Well, Amy, bugger off.
I'm buggering off. See you later.
Goodbye.
I'm saluting.
Now wait a minute.
Hi people, this is an extra bit we're adding to our podcast. With me I've got Becky Neal, uber nerd in exercise physiology, just finished her PhD. So Becky, what can you tell us about the cold and what it does to the body?
Yeah, so I study physiology, particularly environmental exercise physiology. Okay. So what happens to your body when you go in some extreme environments, and cold water is one of those. So there's kind of four main stages when you go into cold water. Most people worry about hypothermia, but that tends to happen later on. So there's other things that you should be concerned about before that, really.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So you might have noticed when you've gone in cold water before, when you first go in, you start breathing faster, hyperventilating, your heart rate goes up, and you have a big gasp usually. So it's quite important. I mean, if you're racing, it's a bit different, but normally what you want to do is go in slowly, because that will make those changes less violent. Particularly the gasp, because one big breath in, if you do that at the wrong time, that's enough to cause serious harm. So if you go in slowly, and then you have that gasp whilst your head is still above the water, then you'll be much more safe. So yeah, if you can, go in slowly. Obviously jumping in is a bit of a different situation, but you'll be prepared for that because you'll know you're about to jump in.
Yeah.
So that's the first stage. That's sort of like the shock response, and you can actually subdue that a bit by doing cold water habituation training. So I've seen that some of you go to dunk yourselves in some cold lakes before you go and do the races.
So like acclimatization, yeah.
So
okay,
that
that
does
makes
actually
sense.
help with that part of the response. So you'll still have it. It's a normal physiological response, and it will still happen. But you might be able to make it less violent.
Okay.
Which is gonna
Less
help
violent.
you.
It sounds scary.
No, it's just normal, but it is something that will happen.
Yeah.
And that will calm down after a few minutes. But most people, if you feel like that, which is normal, it's a normal response. Sometimes that makes you more worried. So what you have to remember is to sort of calm down a bit there, because there is a lot of psychological aspects that can interfere and make it worse. So after that, your skin starts cooling down and it gets through to your muscles. Basically, if you think of yourself as a big melon and all the important bits are in the middle,
Okay.
it will slowly get colder and colder towards the middle.
Okay.
And when your middle gets cold, that's when you're hypothermic. So normally you're about 37 degrees. That's your body temperature in the inside. But hypothermia is when you get down to more like 35. And that doesn't sound like too much, 2 degrees, but that's kind of where we operate. That's our normal temperature. So that's quite cold, really. You don't want to be like that. But that will take time because the cold's got to get through all your layers to your core.
I feel like it doesn't take time because as soon as like the cold hits, I'm cold.
Yeah, so between those two stages, really, you will feel cold because your muscles will be cold, your skin will be cold, and your blood flow changes. So you know, you go white. That's because your blood is going to your core to keep the important things warm. So that's, you know, a normal response as well, and that's trying to protect you. You probably shiver as well. Shivering's a good thing. It's gonna try and make you warmer. So those movements that you're doing, the vibrations, they'll get you warmer and try and sort of warm you up by generating heat.
Okay.
So shivering is a good thing. You wanna keep shivering.
Yeah.
Yeah. So eventually, but one of the things that kind of gets interference with is any kind of movement you want to do. So if you try and put your hands together and run your fingers together like in a prayer position, I'm doing it now but you can't see. If you try and do that, you can do it quite fast normally, but once you get cold muscles, it's much slower.
Yeah.
So that's kind of quite important in something like an obstacle course race, because you've got to climb afterwards, you've got to use your hands, you've got to use your grip. And your arms are particularly susceptible, because if you think about your arms, they've got a lot of surface area and not a lot of mass, especially compared to your legs. So they've got a high, what we call surface to area ratio, and that means they're going to cool down quicker because it's got more skin in contact with the cold water.
Yeah.
So what you want to do, if you can, is keep your arms dry. Obviously not always possible, but if you can walk through a giant puddle with your arms out, then that's good. Like, try and keep your arms as dry as you can, because they'll get colder than your legs will, especially if they're not moving. I did actually do a study in cold water, and we looked at how it's best to keep you warm when you're in the water. Should you use your arms or should you use your legs? Because as you know, when you're exercising outside of the water, if you do exercise, it warms you up. The thing with the cold water is, because it's so much more dense than air, it cools you down quicker.
Yeah.
So if you're exercising in cold water, what happens is your blood goes back around to your muscles rather than to your core, and then your blood gets cold because it's near the water, and the blood goes back to your heart and your lungs and your head, and it's colder, so it actually makes you colder. So sometimes it's not always best to exercise in the water, which is, you know, difficult to think about, because normally when you're on land, exercise makes you warmer.
Yeah.
But if you do that in water, it won't necessarily help you, especially with your arms, because they can't generate enough heat to stop the losses because of their high surface
I never would have
area.
thought about arms as well, because normally you just think core, keep your core warm and stuff.
So, you know, so aside from obstacle course racing, if you're happen to find yourself in a bad situation in the water, perhaps one of the best things to do is just use your legs and use your arms to sort of hug your body, keep you a bit warmer. So, and try not to move them too much. Obviously, if you've got a life jacket or something on like that, then that's one way to do it. But yeah, these things are useful to know for life, I think.
Jeez.
And then after that, that's when hypothermia sets in. Obviously, it's different for different people. If you've got more fat, then you're going to stay warmer for longer. So that is a good thing when you're in cold water. If you've not got much fat on you, then you'll cool down quicker and be much more susceptible to hypothermia. Also, when you're thinking about your body as a melon again, you'll continue to cool after you come out of the water. So it's something we call after drop. Just because it's still, you know, it's still setting in, it's still in your core kind of thing. And so you should keep an eye on people afterwards, even when they're out of immediate danger. One of the things they talk about in sort of sea rescue is the post-rescue collapse, which is something which can happen, especially to do with the blood pressure from the change from being in water to being on land where there's more gravity. So that's, you know, one of the reasons. I won't go into that, but also just because people stop fighting, essentially, you know, you've got to
kind of relax, don't you?
And that's not always the best thing to do. You know, if you found someone in the water and they're in trouble, I would say keep fighting for your life. Don't say it's okay, we've got you now, because that is one of the causes of collapse afterwards.
So is that so? If we speak tough guy this weekend, a lot of people finish and collapse in a heap because they're like, oh my god, I've just finished.
Yeah.
But you're saying the best thing to do is literally not to do that.
I would I'd definitely keep going, get warm quick, get out of those wet clothes, because you're not going to dry when you're get warm when you're wet.
Yeah.
Because of the properties of water, so you need to get out the clothes, and then I'm sure you've got things with you.
Mm.
You know, those foil blankets not so good when you're wet, so you've got to get dry first and then get warm.
Yeah.
And you know, you can keep moving then, because you don't have that problem with the water cooling you down. So you can, you know, if you've got enough energy left, then keep moving.
Okay.
And yeah, don't be alone.
Don't be alone,
Yeah.
because otherwise you're going to end up in field, and it's going to be a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, lush. And what about like so a lot of people say making sure that you've got your head covered. Is that actually really important compared to, you know, like you say, the arms? Is having your head covered even after the race an important thing to do?
Yeah, I mean, it's not a bad thing to do, so I would definitely do it. Whether or not it's better than doing anything else, I'm not sure. Because it is also quite a lot about the surface area. But of course, your brain is closer to the surface.
Yeah.
Your brain's pretty important to keep warm, because that makes you do silly things if it's not happy. So yeah, hats.
Yeah.
Lots of clothes.
Yeah, and try and keep the arms covered.
Get some warmth.
So you think like neoprene would be a good thing for your arms, or is it something that you just like try and keep them out of water? Because I know with Tough Guy you've got the whole head.
Submersion, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Neoprene is good.
Yeah. And so is it best when you say like go into water slowly, it's like feet first, kind of?
Yeah, just walk
build it up.
Yeah. And you will hyperventilate. Heart rate will go up.
You will gasp and. Yeah.
But just stay calm. Have that voice. And then when you come out, keep fighting.
keep moving. Okay, cool. Is there anything else that you would kind of say is important to remember?
Let's think. I'm not sure. Just look out for each other, I suppose.
Don't
worry. I'm making this sound really dramatic.
No. But if you're running, say you know, there's Tough Guy. There's also nuts coming up, which is always something that everybody struggles with.
Yeah, it's a long time as well.
Yeah.
So you know, hypothermia is.
If I'm running with someone and they are showing signs of hypothermia, what are those signs? What are the most obvious signs going to be?
It's quite easy to notice, especially if you're trying to talk to them.
Okay.
They sound a bit slurry sometimes.
So it's like they've just gone to the pub, had a couple of pints, and come back on again.
Yeah. They'll look a different colour. They'll probably be shaky and they won't have any strength, and they'll just be a bit delirious.
Okay.
Not be able to concentrate very well.
Yeah.
I think try and interact with people, then you'll be able to understand a bit more how they're doing.
Yeah. So if you can't have a proper conversation with them, then there's a problem and need to make people aware.
Yeah.
Awesome. I like that.
Yeah.
So watch out, ladies.
Yeah. No, but you know, have a great race. You're all there to help each other as well. So.
I love that. Have a great race though. It'll be fine.
I didn't get an entry, so.
Oh, heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And there's people pulling out as well.
Oh.
Nightmare. But awesome. Is there anything else?
No, it's good.
Awesome.
Next
all right.
time for some heat.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much, Becky Neal, Uber nerd, PhD, and all that jazz. Hopefully, we'll be having Becky back on soon to talk about her favourite topic, which is the heat. So, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Cheers.